for us to have Big Mo, Rabbi Mordechai Siev from Tzfat, and I worked in the Ascent of Tzfat. I was a counselor many years ago for the tourists that would pass through. They had to have a younger guy hang out with them and hang out with the tourists and learn with them a little Torah, inspire them, go on hikes with them and other things. So I was there and I got to know Big Mo, and I must say Big Mo is like the soul behind the whole Ascent Institute. He's the fire that keeps the whole place going. It's I called it on the Facebook. I wrote that he's the celebrity, the Jewish celebrity of the city of Tzfat, and anyone that ever goes through Tzfat hasn't really seen Tzfat unless they meet Big Mo, and Big Mo really brings a lot of inspiration, huge amount of inspiration to the entire group, all the tourists that come through Tzfat. They have to meet Big Mo. So we are honored to have Rabbi Mordechai with us to share with us some inspiration from the holy city of Tzfat. Maybe you can tell us a little about the city of Tzfat. And Big Mo is also a tour guide in the city of Tzfat, so he's probably shown the city of Tzfat to thousands.
I am well. I'm sorry I've been behind. So do you still need?
So with no further ado, Big Mo, it's all yours.
Muted.
Mordechai, you're muted.
Okay. Thank you very much, Menachem. I remember those years with Menachem as a madrich and at Ascent, and we had a special room there to put the guys who would come, the yeshiva students who would come and help out the program. And Menachem spent 2 very beautiful years there, and for sure the connection is always there. And like he said, the real support staff of a program is usually actually the key staff of the program, because they're the ones who actually hang out with the people and stay with the people all the time. Basically, even when the regular staff goes home, they're hanging out, they're with the people, they're actually making the ultimate impact on the people to actually make real movement, the real changes in their life, to really come closer to who they are and to reveal actually a beautiful thing, which actually was pretty much in Tzfat, something you would see on a pretty regular basis because of the specialness of being in Tzfat and being in Ascent together. It was something very special, and would generally lead to something special in a person's life, and people who've gone to Tzfat know what I'm talking about and understand that and realize that and understand why the Kabbalists came there in the 1500s, together with the Spanish Jews, who arrived, and then the great time of Tzfat was obviously then when the Arizal was there, and Yosef Cairo, and Shlomo Alkabetz, and together with Rav Moshe Cordovero, who was there a little bit before, and we had the all-star team there of people that was there to really say it, and was something that if people have any interest in anything specific, I'd be happy to also to focus on it, to tell some more about it. It's for sure that there's a lot there's a lot to be told, and there's a lot of information there that goes on. And I know that when I received the Rebbe's bracha, the Lubavitcher Rebbe's bracha to come to Tsfat, to come to Ascent, and this I received it on at the end of the Shavuos holiday in 1987. I was in Philadelphia at the time, and I drove down with a group of students to Brooklyn, and we got the bracha from Lubavitcher Rebbe to go to Tsfat. Went at that point with my young family and my late wife. We went in the summer of 1987, and actually came into the Ascent building, and it was the old Ascent building compared to what Menachem knows of, and it was a much smaller building in a much smaller place, and therefore I was sitting on the porch and it was the summertime, and we were making kiddush there, and all of a sudden I was listening and I heard disco music, and I was thinking to myself, oh, wait a second, I'm not in Philadelphia anymore, right? And I'm listening and I'm saying to myself, I gotta find out where this is coming from. So I went outside, I went down the stairs, and I took some I took some wine with me, and I took some mazonos in case somebody needed to hear kiddush. And I went down to the place, and there was this hotel right under us, and they had a disco on Friday night. And I said to them, I walked in, I said Shabbat Shalom, and they said Shabbat Shalom. They were a little surprised to see me, and I said to them, I told them my Hebrew is not so great. I just came to Tzfat, but I would like to make kiddush for anybody who hasn't heard kiddush yet. And so then they were all very happy. So I made kiddush for them, and I started to come there on Friday nights, and that was kind of like my opening to Tzfat, and seeing there, something unusual that I wouldn't have thought. But nevertheless, it was shows that in each place there's a need, and there's always something for somebody to do, to look and to find people that really you can look and find, and really make a good connection, a good influence, and always look for a good way to help your fellow Jew.
What year did you get to Tzfat?
1987.
87.
You said Ascent. What is exactly Ascent? It was there before you were there.
Actually, it wasn't. In 1983, when Ascent started, I was a yeshiva student in Israel, and I helped out. I was helped out for the first 3 programs they did. So Ascent started in the summer of 1983. And I helped them out then in 83, and I got married in 84, and then 85, I went to work on campus, to be a shliach in the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia for 2 years before I came back to Tzfat.
You did Tzfas. Did you ask him, or did he ask you? I'm just curious.
Well, it was really actually my late wife wanted to go back to Israel. She felt it was better to raise our kids in Israel than in America. So she felt that was the need, and I understood that that was something that she felt. So then I went to ask the head person at Ascent, Rabbi Shaul Leiter, who I knew from when I was there in 1983. I asked him for a job, and once he made an offer, so then I went to ask the Rebbe for his blessing to go to Tzfat.
And you got that. Who's Yerachmiel Tillis?
Yerachmiel Tillis is one of the 3 people who started Ascent.
Uh-huh.
He's the person who actually became known as the master person who did Malava Malka every Saturday night. And he always had an incredible Hasidic story that he would tell, and eventually became a storyteller of par excellence.
So you've been working with him all these years.
Yeah.
Now, what is it that people want to see in Tzfat besides the caver of the Ari? I understand, but what else is there to see in Tzfat?
I think people want to see also there's a physical beauty and there's a spiritual beauty there. So the physical beauty is the Galilee and the mountains and the scenery and the incredible, forest around and the beautiful mountain range. Mount Meron is right across the way, and you look around, you see real beauty every day. When I walked home from Ascent, I walked down a special path, and I would always see the beauty, and I would look towards Tiberias and see the Kinneret from over the mountain range there. And so there's a physical beauty and an artist quarter in Tzfat,
right,
which also attracts people. And then the spiritual beauty comes on Friday night when L'chododi comes about. The Shlomo Alkabetz, who was also at the time of the Ari, he wrote the L'chododi in Tzfat, and it very much became a Tzfat connection and a Tzfat spirit and energy that he put into that whole idea of what that song is on Friday night, and the fact that Tzfat is really the place where the transformation takes place.
What is the relationship with you and Breslov in Tzfat? I'm just curious in terms of, you have different Hasidic groups there now.
Right. So I happen to be that, I happen to have some very good friends who were in Breslov, and they were, I once had a guy there who was an American guy who was taking a lot of Ascent guests, and one of the guests asked him, you're Breslov and Ascent is Chabad. What's the difference between Breslov and Chabad? And he said, you know what? I'd rather tell you what the similarities are.
Right.
I thought that was a nice way of looking at it.
Do you know Yaina Lipschitz?
Yeah.
Okay. No, he's a good guy. I knew him from Simply Tzfat about 20 years ago, maybe longer.
Yeah, and Eliel Ryder, who was
Right.
also there, was my next door neighbor for about 25 years.
Uh-huh. So you can say hello for me. But besides that, spiritually, what is now? I mean, I used to go to the old city at Tzfat. I can't now because I'm an old man. And I can't climb the way I used to climb. But what's a good way for someone like me to see Tzfat and get some of the spirituality out of Tzfat without having to climb the hills?
Well, first of all, I think today there's many ways of getting around. I think you can first of all, during the week, there's plenty of people who have like 4-wheel drive vehicles that can take you to different places and show you different places in Tzfat and the area around. Obviously, steps, a lot of steps, but there's also a lot of places that you can get to without going on the steps. And depending on a person's mobility will depend on what they need to get around, and hopefully we can find what's needed. But I think once they come to Tzfat, I think they'll feel the need that they want to be part of it, and they want to participate in it, and they want to feel the Friday night fever there.
Maybe you could tell us a little about the different synagogues and the holy people that the holy Kabbalists that were there. Maybe we could give like a minute about each of the holy individuals, or a few minutes, however much you want to share with us. Any stories about them?
Okay. But my mother said I didn't answer the question, so let me go back to the question. Yeah, my mother said she can't walk the hills as well also. So I think that during the week you have to be driven around as much as possible to the places that you can get to, and also there are very good Jeep tours that can take you to the outlying areas in Tsfat and above Tsfat, and I think that's the best way possible, really, to get around, because otherwise,
What was
and
it?
to stay at Ascent on Shabbat, and you don't really have to walk anywhere. You can just go on the porches and get the beautiful view of Tzfat and get a beautiful experience and good hospitality at Ascent of Tzfat.
What was it that originally attracted the early Kabbalists? Was it the isolation, the nature view? Do you have any other reasons or things that you know of that brought them there to begin with?
Well, I think the initial people that Menachem was mentioning and that you're mentioning came. The Arizal was in Egypt, and he understood that Eliyahu Navi was teaching him, was learning with him, and he understood that there was a reason to come to Tzfat. He understood that Tzfat was one of the 4 holy cities, and he's understood that Tzfat was the city of air, and the city that he understood that he could actually bring the Mashiach to Tzfat, and he actually tried to do that a number of times during his time in Tzfat, and he felt that it was a place of tremendous spiritual power and spiritual energy, and a place that could actually be the seat of Kabbalah and the seat of redemption, if you would look at it in a way.
Cities that you mentioned.
Tzfat is the city of air, and Tiberias is the city of water, and that's what the last seat where the Sanhedrin sat, in the city of Tiberias, and obviously the Rambam and Rabbi Akiva are buried there, and the Ramkal, and so on. And then you have the city of Yerushalayim, which is a city of fire, the city of the seat of the 2 holy temples, and the seat of King David, and so on. The great kingship of the Jewish people was in Yerushalayim, but the first seat actually of King David was in Hebron, and Hebron is in this week's Torah portion. Chayesara, there's a very big Shabbat going on this week in Hebron, because Abraham bought the place to bury his wife Sarah was the cave of the patriarchs and the matriarchs, and there are 4 famous couples that are buried there, that Adam and Eve are buried there, and then Abraham and Sarah, and Yitzchak and Rivka, and Yaakov and Yaakov and Leah.
So Tzfat is the city of air.
Right, because when you look at it, it's the most spiritual element. It's the one that least connects to the realm of being physical. At the same time, it's one that also has the ability to be able to connect to what we know as the mystical side of things, and that's why Tiberias is water, because the well of Miriam, when they came to Israel, actually became submerged in the Kinneret. And that's why Tiberias has the seat of water, and water is obviously compared to Torah, and Torah is something that very much connected to the great city of Tiberias, where the seat of the Sanhedrin sat after the destruction of the Second Temple. And obviously Yerushalayim is fire. Fire is the soul of a person, the soul of the Jewish people, and the fire that also went up in the Holy Temple to consume the sacrifices. And Hebron is earth, because obviously Abraham bought the Mars Machpelah for 400 shekels or whatever the thing was, but he paid for it. And he took out the idea that the earth is a place where you come into, but it's where also the resurrection of the dead is going to start coming from. There's different opinions. Some say from Tzfat, some say from Hebron, and we know in the end it's going to be in Yerushalayim.
Maybe you could tell us more about the other great tzaddikim, all the great tzaddikim of Tzfat and the Kabbalists.
Okay, I think that you can start off, first of all, with the great people that came on the Spanish Aliyah, which the Spanish Jewish community was kicked out of Spain in 1492. And then at that point, they arrived in Tzfat in the late 1400s. And in the early 1500s already, there became a very special community of people, because the head rabbi was Joseph Cairo, and he was one of the great leaders of Spanish Jewry. And at that point, he became a great teacher in Tzfat, and he fought to reinstitute rabbinical ordination again, to become a rabbi, that it should come back to Tzfat again, like it had been many hundred years before then. And he actually, from Yaakov Beirav, he actually received smicha in Tzfat, and he passed it on to some great people. Mainly the Alshich was one of the people who received from Yosef Cairo, and Yosef Cairo has a shul in Tzfat, and obviously what his great accomplishment was is finishing in 1555 of the Shulchan Aruch. He finished writing the Shulchan Aruch in Tzfat in 1555, and at that point he understood that was his ultimate shlichus, that was his purpose of being there, and he had a very special connection there. And but his main student was the holy Moshe Alshich, and the Alshich was together with him in the shul, and he said that he should open up his own shul and start giving drushes every Shabbos. So the holy Alshich opened up a shul below the Yosef Cairo, and he started every Shabbat afternoon giving drushes, and everybody in Tzfat would come to hear him talk. And it was amazing to see even the Arizal would come, and Yosef Cairo would come, and all the great people would come to hear him talk, and he would give all kinds of amazing talks. And one time he was giving a talk, and then in the middle of the talk, he saw that the Arizal got up and he walked out of his talk, and he was very upset. He didn't understand why the Ari would leave his talk. So at the end of the Shabbat, he went over to the Arizal and he asked the Arizal if everything was if everything was all right. And he said, when you start to talk about people in the Torah, you actually invite their souls to the talk. And when you talked about Yaakov, and you talked about Lavan, so I was very happy to see Yaakov Avinu, but I didn't want to see Lavan or Russia. And when you talked about the amount of times that he cheated him, Yaakov Avinu got up and left, and I was together with Lavan the Russia, so I also got up and left. I didn't want to be together with him. So he said, I'm very sorry, I didn't see that was actually going on, but we have to understand that this is very powerful people doing very powerful things there. So that was two of the great Spanish Jews that were there. The third great one was from the Abuhav Shul. Yitzchak Abuhav was a great Spanish teacher and person over even before the expulsion from Spain, and he had a synagogue in Spain, and he at that point felt there would be no future for the Jewish community, and he had that synagogue. He wanted that synagogue to be brought over to Tsfat, and some say that the Abuhav synagogue in Tsfat was brought over in a very miraculous way. But suffice to say, though, that the synagogue has the real tradition of Sephardic Jewry, which comes from Spain, is in the Abuhav Shul, and it has the Abuhav Sefer Torah, which goes up back over 600 years, is in that synagogue as well, and it's only taken out 3 times a year to read on Rosh Hashanah, on Yom Kippur, and on Shavuos, and a very powerful synagogue. The chief Sephardic rabbi at Tzfat is very, very much present there, and Rabbi Mordechai Siev would come there quite often to daven as well. Obviously, the main Ashkenazi synagogues you have are connected with the Ari Ashkenazi, and there's also next to that the original Ari synagogue was on the bottom of Tzfat, right above the mikveh, and that's called the Ari Sephardic Shul, even though it's kind of a mixture there, but the Ari himself actually lived right outside the shul, and he revealed the mikveh of the Ari in the cemetery below, and he said that anybody who will go to that mikveh, it will be a real segula for them for tshuva, that in their lifetime they will actually experience tshuva. And so it's always known as a very, very special place, and obviously people have very special feelings going to the Ari's mikveh. I remember taking some ladies asked me one night to go, that I should take them down there and guard the door for them. And it was a little bit risky. It was about 2:00 in the morning. We went down, and I stayed by the door, and they went in to the mikveh, and it was a very powerful experience for them. They had, I think each one of them had like a tremendous awakening in their life, and they all look back to that moment of going into the Ari's mikveh, and I know that was something that really transformed a lot of people. And
What connection, if any, is there between Meron and Tzfas? I know you can see it from up on Tzfas, you can see Meron, but is there any connection in terms of rabbis or?
I think the big connection is the original Kabbalist that revealed Kabbalah to the world in an open way was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and he ended up towards the end of his life, he ended up in Meron after hiding out in a cave in Piki'in for a number of years. And he was the one who wrote the book, the Zohar, the first book of Kabbalah, was printed in Spain. That was the first place that actually printed it. And then they brought it with them when they came after they're expelled from Spain. They brought it to them to Tsfat, and that was like the special connection that the Kabbalists in Tsfat started learning the teachings of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and then the Arizal actually said that he brought down the Kabbalah of the Ari, said that now it's just the time to reveal this wisdom. And that was a big connection between Tzfat and Meron. And the biggest thing that no question that they had was that the Kabbalists all felt that that all the teachings are based on the teachings of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And the Arizal was the first one, Moshe Cordovero, and the Arizal started to also explain Kabbalah according to their own insights and so on. And then 200 years after the Ari was in Tzfat, came the Aliyah of Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk, and he brought actually the explanation of what the Kabbalists were trying to say according to the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov. And then 200 years after them, in 1973, Rabbi Aryeh Leib Kaplan and Rabbi Sarah Kaplan came to Tzfat to start the era of this era, 400 years after the Ari made the proclamation of to revealing a deeper part of the Torah, of the Kabbalah, in a more practical way for everybody. And that came together with as the Kaplans and the Chabad movement in Tzfat was reinstituted again at that point.
You're saying that was 400 years ago?
The 400 years after the Arizal made the proclamation, the Kaplans arrived 400 years afterwards.
Yes. Who was the first one to call you Big Mo, and when?
David Lazarson was the first one in Buffalo in college. He was the one who coined the name Big Mo, and I don't know why, but he somehow.
I hear you've worn it well.
somehow it came together there, and yeah, it's actually gone very well at Ascent because. If you tell a college kid, my name is Mordechai, so he'll look at you, okay, that's interesting. But if you tell him your name is Big Mo, he'll remember that. that there's no question about that.
You work mostly now with college kids?
I work with people from all different backgrounds. Some college kids, some people who are in different programs, Birthright and Masa programs, and individual tourists that come through, and backpackers and so on, and yeah.
But how many Jews do you affect every week?
Every week? That's an interesting question.
How about every year? Maybe just tell us in a year.
All right, if it's easier for a year, fine. I'm just. I thought it was easier for a week.
It's a very hard thing to put a number on it, but I would say that really every class I teach, I try to make some impact on people, and also to help the person. Because by helping them, that is one of the most beautiful ways to actually make an impact on a person.
I see Mr. Resnick has a question.
Yeah, I have a question. I think when I visited, there was a bathhouse not far from the Ari's grave, from the Arizal's grave. Is that the mikvah you were talking about?
Exactly.
Oh, so how old is that mikvah?
The mikveh is from the times of the Ari. Mikveh is over 400 years old.
Wow.
I'm sure they
Interesting.
changed the water.
It's a natural underground spring.
Right.
Yeah.
The water changes itself. You
Very
don't have
nice.
to change it. It's beautiful, beautiful though. Yeah, people have. I was just speaking with a rabbi here in Long Island. I was over by him a little bit before, and he said that most of the people in the synagogue who have been to Tsfat all have felt that it was a place that they have to go back and they have to have connection to, because they feel like it was a place that they felt changes and something deeper connection in their life.
Can I make a suggestion for Tzfat? Maybe they should make some parking lots at the top of the hill, top of the stairs, so people can walk down instead of walking up.
Okay.
I actually met with some people about putting up some automated rails. It's too much investment. Any
Yeah,
problems with Arabs in the neighborhood?
Not on a regular basis. I mean, in the university, there are a lot of Arabs studying there. That's most of the Arabs you see in Tzfat. Other than that, you don't see too many Arabs in Tzfat.
How far away are you from Yehuda and Shomron?
How far away we are from the center of the country, Judea, Samaria, Yerushalayim. We're about a 3-hour ride from that.
Oh, so it is away.
Yeah.
Rabbi Siev,
Yes.
I feel that I was very fortunate to be zocha, to be taken by Rabbi Kassin with a number of other young people. He guarded us when we visited, we paid a visit to the MacBeth, to the Aris MacBeth. I felt like there was sort of an electric current in the water. It was a really amazing experience. I have to admit that. I was there on a visit when I was doing a Zfaser for my mother, Aleha Hashalom. But I also wanted to ask you, pertinent to that earlier comment with regard to the Arizal walking out when he perceived the neshama of Laban there and Yaakov Avinu walking out. I always have wondered how, and this, shows the lacuna in my knowledge, if Ruel, if Laban's father was in any way related to Avraham Avinu or to his family, because why Davka did they go there, to that particular place? And, Laban is called the Arami. I mean, I know that he sojourned in Haran. Avraham Avinu sojourned in Haran. But I was wondering if there was a connection, a relationship, because they make such a very careful distinction between the Canaanites and the people of the, of the family of Ruel, even though Laban, we obviously know he was, a totally different sort than Yaakov Avinu. He wasn't Yashar.
Phyllis, Lavan was related to Abraham. They were relatives. That's why they wanted to marry into that family. Lavan's father was Besuel, and they come from Abraham's brother, so they're related.
Oh, they came from Lot?
No, Abraham's brother, Nahor.
Oh, Nahor. I thought he was Abraham's father.
No, Terach.
Oh, no, that was Terach. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotta fix.
No problem, no problem. Okay, good.
Thank you very much.
Okay, sure.
So Mordechai, what's a recent miracle you've seen?
Are any good stories? Maybe a good story from Ascent or from Zfaser.
You know, I had a very interesting story that took place about even during the COVID times. You have amazing stories. It took place about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. A girl was coming to my class, and you know, I saw that she was having quite a special time. You know, trying to understand, you know, what was the connection to her and herself, and she started to confide in me that she felt that she was like too old to get married, and she wasn't going to be able to have any children, and she felt like, you know, her life was not going to be able to really amount to much of anything. And I said, no, you're definitely going to get married, you're definitely going to have children, you're going to have a wonderful life. You just have to look a little more of your connection with God, and you have to do a little more praying and to learn a little bit more. And she was at that point signed up for an ulpan in Yerushalayim, and I said that she should forget the ulpan, she should go to study with the Appels in Yerushalayim, who have this Malchus program, and study Tanya with them, and study Chassidus and study Torah with them. And then, you know, and then at that point, you know, I said that if she has any problems, she can use me as a reference. And she was so excited and so, you know, power drawn, and she stayed in Spot for another 2 or 3 weeks, and we studied a lot together. And she went to Yerushalayim, and she had a tremendous growth at that point. She came back to Tsfat, and she said that she wanted to get married. And I said, I was so happy when I heard her say that. She wanted to get married, and she knew that she could get married. And like 2 weeks later, she found this guy who was living in the next street over from her in Spot, and they decided to go out, and they started to meet in a formal way, and they actually got engaged. And Baruch Hashem, they had a beautiful wedding, and I walked her to the chuppah with my wife. And then 5 months ago, they had a baby girl, and she's expecting another baby now. And it's like you look at this person, and the American, you know, people, you know, they come and they think that people say you can't do this, you're too old for this, you know. We're not talking about old, you know, like older. We're saying just like their perspective is old, the way they look at themselves is old. The way they look at themselves is that they can't do this and they can't do that. And Lubavitcher Rebbe always said you have to have positivity bias. You always have to look that I can do it and I will do it. And we have to be the emissaries to help people to look at it in the right way and to actually make those changes in their life. And all of a sudden realize that they can start building a Jewish home and building a future for the Jewish people.
Let me ask you, here at the Levi Yitzchak Senior Academy, we know we can do anything. What suggestions do you have coming from Tzfas? So I can say I got some hashpah directly. You barely here 24 hours. So this way, with the luft from Eretz Yisrael, what do you suggest for us?
Well, first of all, I would suggest that that it's never too late for anything. And second of all, that everybody should be healthy and have a healthy winter. And third of all, that that should continue to go with a young spirit in whatever you're doing, and because God knows that the spirit is really what guides the person and gives the person the most that they can have, and make sure that they don't feel like, that they're actually not able to do something, but think about it and think that, yes, I can do it, and that I will do it, and I'll be successful, and that God will help you, and that He'll not only help you, that He'll actually walk together with you and to guide you and be successful in anything that you want to take upon yourself.
Amen. What is one very tough thing you had to handle over the years, and how did you overcome it?
One of the hardest things is losing 2 wives, I would say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That I lost my wife from my first marriage, and my wife of my children, and also to terrible disease that we don't like to say the word of it, but it starts with a C, and it actually starts with an M, melanoma, and I realized that after the second wife, I realized that I read one of the books of Rabbi Kalmanson, a time for healing, and I realized that for a person to heal, for a person to go forward, that you have to really show God that you're happy, and that's what I really had to work on to actually be happy. In that situation, you lose somebody who's very, very close to you, and it comes in many, many different ways in different situations, and that you have to be happy, and you have to go forward, and you have to help other people to be happy, and be good examples for them, and show them that yes, you should continue to go forward, and not to be sad, but to, in the proper time, do what you have to mourn for the person. But then when that's finished, to go on to heal yourself. And the proper healing comes when you actually go and you show Hashem that you're actually b'simcha, and that by being b'simcha, that shows that you have a lot of trust and you have a lot of faith in God Himself.
Baruch Hashem. You married, you remarried for a third time?
Yeah, yes.
Baruch Hashem. How many children do you have altogether?
I have 5 children, thank God.
Baruch Hashem. All there in Israel, or some here in America?
2 in America and 3 in Israel.
Uh-huh. Well, I found out by accident. I mean, when I saw your last name when we spoke on something, you have a cousin that used to live in North Miami Beach.
Exactly.
Dr. Siev.
Yes.
How are you cousins?
His father and my father are brothers.
Aha. Uh-huh. Could be
That's
mother.
That's right.
Shkaya.
Yeah.
Is this, I have a couple of questions. Is this Dr. Siev, the cardiologist?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hashgacha Pratis, I just saw him for the first time a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And also Hashgacha Pratis, I'm hearing that you're from Philadelphia. I'm also from Philadelphia. And I also wanted to hear about, if you know the story with, you mentioned Rabbi Buhav, about the earthquake in his shul.
First of all, I worked in Philadelphia, so I was in Philadelphia for a couple of years. I'm actually from New York, but yeah, I have a lot of good friends in Philly. There, the Abu Hav shul. What happened was during the earthquake in the 1800s in Tsfat. It was a huge earthquake in the 1820s, and most of the places in the old city collapsed, except two of the synagogues, one the Ari synagogue, and the other was the Abu Hab synagogue. And the Abu Hab synagogue, they say that the wall where the Abu Hab Torah is in, the Aron Kodesh there, that wall didn't collapse during the earthquake, and the Arizal, also the Mizrach, the part where the front of the shul, where the Aron Kodesh is, also didn't collapse in those two holy places, and the rest of Tzfat was destroyed, and really the chief rabbi at Tzfat at that time was the Bat Ayin, who we know, and he was in a shul, and he told people in that shul to hold, to stand around the bima and put his hands on him, and that they wouldn't get hurt. And the whole shul collapsed, except the place around the bima where all those people were standing together with the Bat Ayin. And then he came out and he saw the ruins in Tzfat, and he said that that's the abbreviation of Tzfat, that Tzfat Pitom Tibaneh. Tzfat in an instant will be rebuilt, and that was the prophecy, and that was exactly what happened, that the shul started to be rebuilt, and obviously that was kind of a miracle that happened, that those people didn't actually get killed, and that the Abu Hab and the Ari shul, that one of the walls of the shul actually remained and didn't fall down.
Real estate prices good in Tzfat?
Pretty good right now.
Rabbi, I heard this story about this shul before I came to Tzfat, and then I came there. This is, I guess, back in the 80s, and I went to videotape inside the shul. And when I got home to the US, the videotape had melted. The specific tape that I had taken in the Abu Hab shul had melted together.
Wow.
Just like impossible to see what was on the tape.
So you have to come visit me, and we'll go in together.
Can you give us your website address? Because I went on it, and there are like hundreds of stories and things by you, by Yerachmiel, and just so everybody here has the web address if they want to check it out.
It's My Ascent, MYASCENT, myascent.org. And, obviously, anybody who is able to help out, we appreciate it very much, because Ascent is your place in Tzfat to reach out and help, the tens of thousands of young people that are coming through every year. And obviously Ascent will be your good shliach to help impact their lives and make a beautiful connection for them in the holy city of Tzfat.
Hey, Rabbi
You
Siev.
maybe you could just conclude and tell us a little about the soldiers that come through Ascent, and maybe some of your programs that you offer to the soldiers, because it's not just tourists. You're really servicing a lot of the other needs that weren't initially, I don't know if they were initially in the plans of Ascent, but I think it's developed that way, that Israelis benefit as well.
Very good point. That when Ascent started in 1983 till 1992, we were just working with English speakers. And then afterwards, we started working with Israelis. And then finally, the IDF, after the second Lebanon war, contacted us that the Israeli army had lost its morale, and they needed some to inspire them and get them going again, that they should feel and understand what their Jewish connection is. And they came to Ascent, and to be the sponsor for Shabbatons of Jewish identity for the IDF. And it became the biggest sponsor that we had, like 30 of them each year, with over 7,000 or 8,000 soldiers coming through Ascent every year, plus programs for Slichas and for Hanukkah and for all the other holidays and everything, and for Purim and Pesach. And Ascent was always the home for the IDF. And now we started working with Mechina groups, the pre-soldiers, the kids before they go in the IDF. They do a year of experiencing different types of things in Israel, and Ascent is one of their stops. They come and they spend like 3 or 4 weeks, and they actually learn how to keep kosher, and they learn about tying tzitzis and different programs, and it's a beautiful thing to see what Ascent is doing for them, and really changing also the young people in Israel, that they feel. And during the Corona time, this is a beautiful story actually, that since the Israelis, after they in the army, a lot of them go to the eastern, they go to the Far East, and they go to South America and the things. They couldn't leave Israel, so what did they do? They hiked the Israel Trail from Eilat to Kiryat Shmona, and Ascent caught them on the trail when they're up north, and we gave them 2 free nights in Ascent, and we started getting all these post-army soldiers coming in and staying with us and just hanging out and learning and being like, really feeling that it's the time now to make a beautiful connection after they're finished with the army and going back into civilian life. And yet they see that the connection is made when they come to Ascent, something very special.
Baruch Hashem. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Talking to you.
You're welcome. Very, very nice to meet everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mordechai. It's a real pleasure to have you and share with us some inspiration from Tzfas. We have dreams at the Levi Yitzchak Senior Academy that one day we'll take a trip somewhere. So, and maybe Ascent will merit to host us, or will merit to be hosted at the Ascent Institute. Stay tuned, everyone. You never know when the trip is going to be. So,
thank you very much, Rabbi. Very interesting.
Comfortable walking shoes.
Right.
Rabbi,
helicopter.
One more thing. I went to yeshiva with Shaul Leiter in Hadar Torah in the late 70s. So pass my regards on from David Olensky.
Which Hadar Torah?
Hadar Torah in Brooklyn, down the block from 770.
It was the late 60s.
I went to Camp Hadar Torah up in the Catskills.
But this is Yeshiva Hadar Torah. It was from 77 to 79.
77 to 79. Oh, okay. Very nice.
And Shaul Leiter was there at the time I was there.
To?
This is David Olensky.
David Olensky. Okay,
yeah.
Very nice. All right, I'll send them your regards.
Okay, Yasha Koyach, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. And,
thank you very much.
We have a few guests here. If anyone that is not aware, we do have this program every single day at 10 o'clock in the morning. We learn the Talmud, and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we have a variety of Jewish topics. And Tuesdays is always a guest speaker. But on the other days, 3 to 4 every afternoon, we have we study, and it's the same link. So if any of you would like to join, please check us out. And sei gesund, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And Yasha Koyach, Mordechai, this was a great program.
Thank you, Big Mo. Thank you, Big Mo.
Only brachas to you.
Thank
you, Rabbi Siev.
You're welcome.
Only brachas, Big Mo.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Amen.
you.
Waiting to host everybody in Tsfat.